Okay, we got breaking news. Derek Carr was just traded to the Cleveland Browns for a 6th-round pick. The Browns will also receive the Raiders' 1st-round pick from this year, the 2nd-round pick, the 1st-round pick, and 3rd-round pick from next year. Unbelievable. But the good news is the Raiders re-signed Jamarcus Russell. We now have our franchise quarterback. April Fool's is out of the way. Okay, I want to talk about Raider football. I want to really talk about Raider football, and I want to keep on preaching this because I've been preaching this for years. And some people that are much younger than me, they'll remember some glimpses of Raider football. The perception is Raider football is the quarterback with a big strong arm, drops back and throws the ball 150 times a game. That is not Raider football. Raider football is running the ball. Running the ball and playing physically. Thanks to YouTube and thanks to the fact that the NFL has not really come down on people posting whole videos of football games from the 70s. We can go back and we can watch Raider football during its heyday. That really was the Raiders' heyday. And then going into the 80s, I consider those 80 teams to be sort of like remnants of the 70s. These guys in the 70s, they were maulers and brawlers, like on the offensive line. And it didn't matter that the running back had 5 yards per carry or whatever. Bach Van Egan, he never had that much per carry, but was always pounding in there. One statistic the Raiders had, if you look at the analytics, is even if they lost a game during a certain stretch of time, going into the 80s, early 80s, even if they lost, the next week, that team, their opponent, also lost because they were too beat up. The Raiders are not going to really be able to get away with that, but they're going to try. Enter Breno Giacomini. Hope I pronounced his name right. But he's what I would call a bully. He's a big guy. You can see he's long and limb and has heavy bone structure. Just a big guy. Really big guy. Not a whole lot of fat on him. I'm sure he's, got a certain percentage any offensive lineman has, but he's a big, tough guy. And the knock on him, if you go to Silver and Black Pride, is he does not pass block too well. In fact, he was ranked something like worst in the league last year. I don't put too much stock in Pro Football Focus, and it's because the way they break things down. I'm kind of like Gruden. I don't like the analytics. The analytics are sometimes too much overthinking. To me, Pro Football Focus is a gambler's site. It's someone that we've all seen it. Maybe you're one of these people. You go to the convenience store, the gas station to buy your lottery tickets, and the person who's buying these tickets is asking the clerk for the number on the back because they're into the analytics. They believe a certain percentage of winners come from certain parts of those tickets. It's like 600 on a roll or whatever it is, depending on the ticket. And they know certain winners come here and there. They think they know. Bunch of BS. And if you just use the analytics, this guy is not being signed as a right tackle. even though he's not made the team, and I guarantee Gruden has told him he's been brought in to compete. But if you look a little deeper, Tom Cable was his coach when he was in Seattle with Marshawn Lynch. He blocked for Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl. So when you look at the reality, is this guy has been brought in to be a bully on the offensive line. Remember the Redskins game? Remember how they got pushed around? Remember the Texan game? Pushed around. This guy's not going to get pushed around. And the way it works, the type of offense the Raiders are going to run is not Jay Gruden. What's his name? Jay Schrader. Dropping back 9 steps, 11 steps, waiting for the wide receiver / track star to get open, and then overthrowing him by 10 yards. We're just throwing a pick after pick after pick. The Raiders are going to get physical. They're going to run the ball. That's why they brought this guy in. He ironically replaced Austin Howard in New York. Now the significance of that, if you remember, not last year, but the year before, go to that Denver Bronco game. Remember Derek Carr got away with throwing an interception? I remember Rodney Hudson on the sideline. He was just pissed off at Derek Carr. It was a stupid interception. It technically probably was an interception. He got away with murder right there. It was one of those instances where you could chalk it up to like Derek Carr when he says, I don't care if I throw 5 interceptions in a game, just as long as we win. No, it's not okay. But after that, not too long after that, the Raiders just started running the same play over and over. And this play called for the right tackle to pull. That is, he went out to his left and went into one of the gaps. They played this play over and over versus Denver, and they were just abusing Denver's smaller offensive line. They were just beating the crap out of them. So that's what they really want to get back to doing. That is Raider football. It was Raider football the whole time until in the 80s. Al Davis getting into the analytics, stopwatch, really getting into the analytics. He got away with it with Cliff Branch, who had to learn how to slow down because he couldn't see when he ran. He ran that fast that his skin was flapping around and covering his eyes. He might have been the fastest guy ever to play the game. Who knows? Probably not. But he was still extremely fast. Just ask John Madden. But all those guys, he started to accumulate over the years. In that book that came out, the guy's detailing the draft room, how he's picking all these guys over who everyone in the draft room wants because he's picking speed. But let's look at Breno Giacomini when we get there. He's going to be mic'd up.
Let's go. Let us out, man. We'll get these guys down. Just post them and get out of there. I'm cutting everything. Let's go, G! They're going to swing. I'm going to get one. Watch. Just keep a lookout.
Just make sure when they do it, you eject them.
saying we can swing, just swing below the helmet?
No, I'm
What you gonna do? Get my face.
What's up? What's up?
Get my face.
You know why they're doing that? The tag. What's up? What's up?
I look skinny in this uniform.
Yeah, with the blue you do. The white, man, you look like a big old teddy bear, dude. I should have cut him too. I should have cut him for you. Nice, let's go, let's go. Let's go. Come on, Bruce! Hey, 27! Rock it! It's a T to number 1, He-O slipped it late. Go out! Let's go out! You okay? Get up, get up. He tightened down a little bit. Hey, bang, 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 bang! Hey, they're playing out on those 19s. Nice job, man.
Okay, now you just saw some guy. I think I misspoke and said it was going to be Jets footage, but it was on the Jets website. That's when he was on the Sea Monkeys. And he, as you can see, he's a bully. That's why Gruden likes him. Gruden is going to be pounding the ball. Now, before people start saying, oh, that's so 1998, and you can't do that anymore because the analytics, Gruden's already dispelled all those analytics of him. Analytics. You can do that. The Packers do that. They do that all the time. Seattle was doing that, especially with Marshawn Lynch. They would run the ball over and over, and then it would pass to tight ends. They'd still have wide receivers, threats deep, and the Raiders have that in Mari Cooper, who's been totally misused. He is not the type of player, I don't think, to be wasted with all these bubble screens, 1-yard routes, negative 5-yard routes, and all that BS. The way you set Amari Cooper up, and we've seen it a few times. Can't remember the exact plays from last year. There's just been a few glimpses of Derek Carr actually showing off his arm to be on target instead of underthrowing it, where Amari Cooper was just wide open. And we're going to see more of that, because the way you set it up is you run the ball. You pound the ball. And when it's done correctly, Amari Cooper is going to be so wide open. Jordy Nelson is going to be so wide open. The Raiders are going to score a lot. And they've improved their defense. The guys they brought in are solid. They're not spectacular. I'm hoping for Bowman to come in, because really a run team needs a pretty solid defense. Traditionally speaking, the Raiders have not always had great defenses. You can look at it and you can see a high-powered offense having a great defense, because just the offense overpowers the other team. The team has to go away from that game plan. But for the most part, the Raiders didn't have overwhelmingly great defense. They have Khalil Mack, who again is another player like Cooper who's been underutilized. I mean, based on what he did last year, you can look at the analytics. You can go to Pro Football Focus and see how he's ranked. You see all those Twitter posts where he's had more pressures and blah, blah, blah. But he really hasn't changed the games around much. We saw glimpses of that in the Denver game 2 years ago, where he sacked Osweiler, but that was Osweiler, and the Denver Broncos were regressing at that point. He has not been unleashed, just like Ryan pointed out last year. I mean, he was just salivating at he wanted the defensive coordinator job. He wanted to coach Mac because he mostly wanted to coach around Mac. He wanted to set him up for success. And he's not set up for success right now because he's being misused. He's getting no help on the defensive line, despite the fact they've drafted many people. But this is how you win Raider football. You gotta have some abusive players abusing the other team. It gets very physical. And they may give up some big plays. Who cares? Remember Lester Hayes? Lester Hayes, he probably would be cut if he was on a team today. Because he put his hands on receivers so much just to hang on to them. Had all sorts of knee problems and stuff. But he would not survive. But when he was taking all those chances, he was taking a lot of balls away. The year before they banned Stickum. And you need players like that. The defense might not look like they're the greatest in the world on paper, but it doesn't matter. Because they could give up tons of yards, but then they come up with the big play. That's something that was missing from the Raiders last year. And it's part of the whole continuity of a team. The defense trusts the offense to secure the ball that they take back and to just completely abuse the other team's defense. With a solid running game, keeping the ball away from their quarterback and just racking up points, giving the ball back, but then just giving the defense something to work towards. Protecting Derek Carr as well. And that's the whole idea. You can't do the Jay Schrader type of, we're just going to throw the ball all over the place because we can't run the ball. We're so predictable. Oh, Bo Jackson's in the game. Yeah, it's going to be a handoff. You can't do that. You can't do that at all. And Gruden will adapt if the opponent calls for it. He's going to have 5 wide receiver sets. He's going to do whatever he has to do. But really, he wants to operate in that power running game. He's got a lot of big dudes in there. Like Giacomini. They're just going to abuse people all game long. Set up, play action. Something that Derek Carr, I guarantee, can do very well or learn to do. He is not doing it right now because you cannot set up, play action till you establish some sort of running game. Last year, the Raiders' offensive line they were missing something. Based on the type of offense they want to run. That's why they brought in Cable. Because they definitely want to run the ball more. So Derek Carr isn't always getting abused. And that defense they have to worry about things. Everyone's laughing at Gruden because he's bringing in a fullback. Well, a lot of teams have this structure to try to compete, especially in the AFC, with trying to compete with the Patriots. Will they have the personnel to take on a fullback? Large tight end sets and things like that. We'll see. They're also going to have to worry about Cooper, who's totally been underplayed. He needs to get much more physical. That's why they brought in Jordy Nelson to pave the way. He needs to learn how to get off the line. And now Gruden is there. I'm sure he's going to do exactly what other Raider coaches did. A lot of motion. Get Cooper in motion. This is tricky. This is, trust me, anyone who's watched the Raiders during the motion period, where you had players going in motion all the time, like Tim Brown, it can cause lots of problems on the offensive line, false starts for the receivers, procedure problems, all sorts of things. It gets complex. But you know something? Amari Cooper will not be getting jammed. That's how Tim Brown worked. I'm not saying it's just going to be that. Amari Cooper over the middle. Ding, 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 ding. No, they're going to really set him up for success. But starts with people like Giacomini. That's why he's been brought in, and other people on the offensive line who can't have a nasty streak. Raiders do have problems here. They have a problem on the offensive line. Penn is not going to be ready till the start of the season, maybe. That's not good. That is not good at all. The Raiders may have to draft an offensive tackle because we don't know where Penn's going to be. We don't know all these late round offensive tackles the Raiders have drafted, where they're at. They didn't play too well last year when they were put in the game. They're not ready, but they were being asked to do a lot. Raiders had no defense last year, so depending on how the rest of free agency works out, you never know who the Raiders could be drafting number one. They could be drafting an offensive tackle. They could be trading up. They could be trading down. I mean, some of the offensive tackles, some people are saying, oh, trade down and get an offensive tackle. Left tackle. Really now. The Titans, they traded up for a left tackle and ahead of the Raiders. I thought the Raiders were going to select that left tackle. His name escapes me. He's the one that Vanderdoos threw down with one hand. But he was a solid tackle. He was, let me see, that was the year, I think Kyle Joseph, was drafted? I think. And he's better than Kyle Joseph. Offensive tackles are very important. Even though Donald Penn was signed off of waiver wire or something like that. I mean, he was not, really someone being brought in with Tampa Bay that Gruden brought in. Someone that was, just already established. Who the hell is this guy? He said last interview. But, it becomes a problem. And Bowman is still out there. They might keep him out there because, Gruden's back in the fold, and he hung around with Al Davis, and he knows Al Davis's techniques to be ultra secretive. Raiders used to never leak anything. Agents leak things, but they don't want to leak too much in the draft, and that might be the reason Bowman has not been re-signed at all, even though they gave him an offer. It's probably a lowball offer. I think they could pay him more because he was the Raiders' defensive captain last year, basically. When he came in, he was just better than everyone else. I mean, he just glued the team together. It might have been a much better team if he was there in the beginning. But if he was just signed right now, after King was cut, if that was the reason for that money, it might not be, but it could totally open up the fact that the Raiders would draft a tackle first overall. I mean, the first round. They might have to trade up, though. Denver Broncos drafting in front of them, and they might go for a tackle or a guard. So we'll have to see about that, but the offensive line is still important. And you're not going to neglect it. You can't. Now the consensus pick is going to be either a middle linebacker or a defensive tackle, I think. I think most people agree that's where the Raiders will be looking. But so many things can happen with the way it's set up. The way Gruden is wanting to set up the team. He got rid of King for many different reasons. And there could be other players. How about Cook? Cook is making a lot of money for a tight end. There are many tight ends in this draft, and the Raiders are now drafting again high up in the draft, top 10. There have been many teams over the years who have a good year, then a bad year, and then get right back on track the following year. The Raiders are going to be trying to do that. It's almost like a blessing in disguise for the Raiders to be drafting this high, although they should have been drafted 9th. But the NFL put a ringer in there, flip the coin, I believe. But whatever. It could be the Raiders draft an offensive tackle. If it becomes that important, because Penn he's really up there in age. And if he goes down, who do you have? That's the reason Cable was brought in. That's the reason Marshawn Lynch is still on the team. They're going to want to run the football much more. They're going to be kind of like Seattle, kind of like Green Bay. That's why they brought in Jordy Nelson, even though he's not the best blocking wide receiver in the world. But he's great for play action, great for finding the seam, friendly, non-James Jett-ish, if you remember him, how he was never friendly towards Gannon and stuff. He just was fast. That's it. Like a lot of the Raiders wide receivers over the years. You got Amari Cooper on the other side. Yes, the Raiders are going to go back to Raider football, which was 70s football, which was a bunch of tough guys. Giacomini right here. And Raider fans should embrace it. They shouldn't look at the analytics. Analytics suck. They're for gamblers. Let's get the season started.